So now that you're ready to play, let me teach you some basic drum beats. Now these beats are going to be taught strictly by ear. No sheet music, no fancy notes, anything like that. Just some simple counting techniques. Now, we can all count to 4. Really hope so. Okay. The first thing I want to do is get you playing 4 hits, if you're a right-handed drummer playing a right-handed setup, with your right hand on the hi-hat. Okay. Simply 4 hi-hat hits, closed hi-hat. Something like this. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. Very simple, super, super simple. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very first thing. But let's try that, and I want to try to count aloud. Let's see if you can count aloud with me on this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on and so on. So simply, all we're trying to do is repeat a 4 beat count over and over and over. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to add the snare drum. Okay, to beats 2 and 4. Very, very important in basic beats, especially in rock or pop, is having the snare drum on counts 2 and 4. Okay, so all we're simply doing is we're still going to play 4 quarter notes. I call them quarter notes. I don't want to get too technical on this. 4 counts on the hi-hat, adding the snare to 2 and 4. Now simply, if you're kind of going, wow, this seems confusing, simply what's happening is I'm going right, both. That's all it is. Right hand, both hands. 1, 2. Okay? Now if I repeat that, 3, 4, I've got the whole entire thing. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how this one sounds. So you can see it's fairly simple so far. Well, it's going to stay simple for the next little while, because all we're going to do now is we're going to add our good friend the bass drum to the hi-hat part, but we're going to put the bass drum on 1 and 3. Okay? So hi-hat's still going to play 1, 2, 3, 4. Bass drum is going to play 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds something like this. Okay, so before we move on to the next section, you might want to practice those two things for a little bit, because I'm going to combine the two now to create a basic quarter note rock drum beat. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just combining those last 2 exercises. I'm going to have the bass drum on 1 with the hi-hat, and then I'm going to add the snare drum to beat 2. So now, if you look at it that way, that's all we have to repeat, and then we got it. So watch this. I'm just going to do those 2 things in very slow example here. Bass drum and hi-hat, snare drum and hi-hat. So you're probably thinking, wow, that's actually pretty easy. Well, I told you it was. I wish he'd speed that up. Well, let's speed it up just a little bit and make it sound a little more realistic, because what I just played was a very slow example. You wouldn't hear any songs that would be played like that. That's just kind of more of a learning purpose than anything. So let's go a little faster, but I want to count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, bass is on 1 and 3, snare is on 2 and 4, hi-hat is on all 4 counts. Something like this. So if you noticed, while I was playing that beat, I was actually mouthing the words or the counts, so you can kind of see where we were. After a while, I mean, you might want to practice counting out loud to yourself, but after a while you won't have to. You'll just feel it. Usually when I tell my students you'll feel it, they go, I don't know what that means. And then they go, oh, I know what you mean now. I can just feel it. So let's try that beat a little faster. Okay? Same idea, just a little quicker. Maybe something like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to demonstrate this beat one more time for you, just a little bit faster. This way you've got 3 variations of the beat to start with, slow, medium, and fast. Feel free to take it as fast as you can, but just make sure the alignment is always there. You want it to be nice and clean and really clarify every single sound that you play. Let's try a little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What I now want to do for you is I want to demonstrate another type of basic drum beat that is based off of eighth notes. Okay? Now, you might hear this term somewhere if you haven't already. Eighth notes are simply 4 times 2. Remember, we counted to 4 in our basic quarter note beat. Now we're going to count to 8. But as opposed to counting to 8, let me show you how we're going to break this down to make it easier. I'm all about doing things easy, so it sounds like I'm doing something much harder, but it's really easier than it looks. Allow me to demonstrate. So remember when we talked about quarter notes? Counting to 4. If you're not sure what quarter notes are, just remember there's 4 quarters in a dollar, 4 quarter notes in 1 bar of common time music. So we went 1, 2, 3, 4. What we're going to do now is in between each of those numbers, 1 to 4, we're going to add the word and, A-N-D, and, okay? And it's not going to be 1 and 2 and, because we're going to go twice as fast as the quarter note was. So if my quarter note is here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm simply doubling the speed of my right hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let me demonstrate this on the hi-hat. Okay, so hopefully that is starting to make sense. So what we're going to do when we play all those notes is count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So simply, you're just adding the word and after each number. Not that hard, right? So I told you I wouldn't get too difficult on you just yet. So let's stay simple. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add our good friend the snare drum to beats 2 and 4, kind of like we did with the previous beat, okay? So we're going to have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now you're probably going to start to recognize this type of beat in maybe the everyday music you listen to, whether it be on the radio or favorite CD or whatever. And this is going to start to make more sense, because a lot of beats that we construct for rock and roll, for pop, are really 8th note based. Okay, so let's start off with this. Here's just the hi-hat playing all 8 8th notes, and the snare drum on 2 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So now we need to add the bass drum to complete this beat, okay? So we're going to do exactly what we did in the previous beat. We're going to put the bass drum on 1 and on 3. But I'm going to take away the snare drum, just so you can hear where the bass drum lines up with the hi-hat before we combine these all these 3 sounds together. So here's the bass drum on 1 and 3, and the hi-hat playing all 8 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if you need to go back and practice the last 2 previous exercises, I would suggest that, because now I want to combine all 3 sounds together. Okay, so the bass drum on 1 and 3, the snare drum on 2 and 4, the hi-hat's going to play all of the 8th notes. Okay, so I'll play a little bit slower, and then I'll speed it up for you. So here's a little bit slower, all together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's try it a little bit faster. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. One more time, even faster. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So this is a really good starting point. You've now got 2 very cool, usable drum beats to start with. So I suggest heading over to the drum set and mastering those 2 beats, and then we can move on.